What's up folks, Mike here, When Watches. Welcome to the video. A bit of a spontaneous video today, but I thought I'd share a little side project in the workshop. I've got a Rolex, ladies Rolex in for service, a 22 series, 2200 series movement. It's either a 2235 or 2230, I can't remember which. But those small little Rolex movements, although I've got movement holders that fit Rolex calibers, they're not quite as firm and robust and sturdy as I would like. So when in doubt, I like to make my own movement holders, and I've made quite a few movement holders over the years, but I've never got around to making one for a small ladies Rolex, so that's what I'm doing today. So I've got a piece of brass stock here about 30mm wide, thereabouts. I've already parted off a section and cleaned that up in the jaws there. I'm just going to use a 3-jaw chuck, not the 4-jaw chuck, because once it's in position I'm not going to move it, so I'm not going to lose any accuracy. So we can see we cleaned up the sides and the faces, and I've just center drilled a hole ready for the boring. So we're going to bore that out to diameter, and hopefully at the end we'll have a nice movement holder to hold the Rolex Calibre. Nothing worse than a movement holder that doesn't hold the movement well. So yeah, check back in a sec, and hopefully we'll have this bored out and ready to use. So now, as we can see, the plate's just loosely in there, but it's set. Let's see if I can zoom in closer. Set, so it's fairly deep inside the movement holder, so it's not going to move or come loose. The next step is just to give this a little clean up, and then we're going to make a cutout for the stem, so that the movement plate can stay in there with the stem present. And once that's cleaned up, that'll be good to go. Nice and snug, good fit. Okay folks, so now the movement holder is set up in a little micro mill. This is a little Proxon MF70 mill that I use for these little jobs, and it's set up pretty much dead center, and we're just going to mill out a little slot for the stem to be placed inside, so that you can work on the movement with the stem in position, and that's what we're going to do there. So obviously I can't hold this and mill at the same time, so I'll show you the end result once the milling operation is complete. Okay, so this is the end result. Nothing too fancy, didn't go too deep on the finishing, just a nice clean simple tool, nice little chamfer on the edge there to make it less sharp to handle. And we got the slot cut in there for the stem, and hopefully this will work quite well as an alternative movement holder for the Rolex Calibre. One of the previous movement holders I used was this one from Hobbyists, and it's okay, but because it's made from aluminium, it's quite light, or aluminum depending on how you want to pronounce it, but it's quite light, so it doesn't really hold the movement as secure as I'd like, and it's quite shallow in depth, so the movement has a tendency to tip, and they're quite small movements, so they're quite tricky to handle. You've got to take real good care of it. So that's why I've made this one out of brass. As you can see, it's considered really larger, and it's certainly much heavier, so this will be far harder to knock over and move about on the bench. So I'm going to have a nice secure fit. So I should get some footage using this with the movement in place, so that you can see what it looks like with the movement in place. But yeah, that's generally what I do here in the workshop if I'm working on a watch movement and I don't have a movement holder that fits just right or works just right for me, then obviously I develop different movement holders. So we've got one here. This is for a Seiko NE88 chronograph. Got 6498 here. I mark them, stamp them, and that's there, so that fits into the version hand setting tool. What other ones do we have? I've got a whole bunch of them here that I've made. Some of them from aluminium. Can't remember what this one is. I haven't even marked it. Could be a 2824. That's for a 7000 series Seikos, I believe. A 6139, I believe. And this one again is a 6119 or 61. This is a 6139 movement holder. So as you can see, I make various movement holders depending on the needs here in the workshop, because sometimes you just don't have the part or the thing that you need. So having a lathe and a small mill comes in really handy. But as I said, the next section of the video, you should see the movement actually being used in this holder for assembly and keep it nice and secure. And for the hand setting, I will probably get a Bergen hand setting movement holder, because I really like the Bergen hand setting ones. But I could obviously modify this to machine out the other side to make it hand setting. There's not a hole through the holder. I could put a hole through there and make a little pin to go up through the middle for the hand setting, but I mainly wanted a movement holder to hold the movement whilst I was assembling it, and that's what we've got. So like I said, the next section of the video you should see the movement in place, and yeah, hopefully it'll work well. Certainly work better than this little light thing. Now, after some adjustment, the movement holder is now finished and is ready to be used for reassembly of this Rolex 2235 caliber. I had to make adjustments because of the crown and stem fitting. So there's a nice bit of clearance there now for the stem and crown, so that I can perform any checks with the stem and crown in position. And the movement plate sits nice and deep inside the movement holder, so it's not going to come out very easily, and the movement holder does have some considerable weight to it. So these are the three more common Rolex movement holders that I have, amongst many of the others that I have, and these are quite good because they work for larger movements. Again, they're quite shallow, so they don't hold quite as well as I'd like. And when it comes to this smaller movement, which I think is actually intended for a 2130 or 2135 caliber, it's really super light. It's made from aluminium, made by Horatec. Don't forget that in the camera there. Where is it? So it's made by Horatec, made from anodized aluminium or aluminium, depending on how you want to pronounce it. So it's super light, but they've designed it so that it's really shallow. And when you put the movement in here, it doesn't hold it very secure, or certainly not as secure as I would like it, that's for sure. And it's super light, so you can knock it easily on the workbench when you're working on it, and that's not what you want. I like it to be nice and secure, whereas you have this one made of brass. This is probably about 10, maybe 20 times as heavy as this little one here. So this is primarily designed, well, I haven't designed, but this movement holder specifically I made to hold the movement whilst I'm assembling the train side of the movement. It does turn over onto the dial side, but the dial side width is actually slightly different. But it does fit both sides. But we'll have to see how that goes when the rest of the movement parts are in there. I will use. I'm not going to use this movement holder for hand setting. I'll have a separate version holder for the hand setting. But this is just purely for assembly, and I quite like making my own movement holders for the various different projects that I get that come into the workshop. It really helps having a fairly decent lathe where you can make parts on, and since most of the parts I make are round, then that comes in handy. The little milling machine I have, which is a little Proxon milling machine, you've no doubt seen before, but that makes some pretty good results. You can see a very nice clean cut through there using the milling machine with a 3mm cutter. I'll leave any links in the description down below for the machines and tools that I use. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So when I don't have a holder that does the job, I make my own, usually out of brass, but sometimes out of aluminium as well. But that's it. I thought I'd share this quick little project of just one of the many things that go on here in the workshop. So if you like this video and you want to see more kind of videos like this, then subscribe, hit the little notification bell, leave any comments below on what you think, and yeah, check out some of my other videos, and I'll be back again with another one very soon.